I brought Tagamet from the discount pharmacy, I said to my father, taking 5 boxes out of the bag I brought. Thank you, Malinki, little one, my father said, taking hold of his beloved drug. It's a peptic ulcer, he said to Eunice, pointing at the depths of his tortured stomach. My mother had already grabbed hold of the back of my head and was madly stroking my hair. So gray, she said. So old he gets, almost 40. Ronya, what is happening to you? Too much stress? Also losing hair. Oh my God. You are named Eunice, my father said. Do you know where it comes from, such name? Like my parents? Eunice gained it again. No, parents. It's from the Greek, Eunike, meaning victorious. He laughed, happy to demonstrate that before he was forced to become a janitor in America, he had served as a quasi-intellectual and minor dandy on Moscow's Arbat Street. So I hope, he said, that in life you'll be victorious also. Who cares about Greek, Boris, my mother said. Look at how she is beautiful. The fact that my parents admired Eunice's looks and capacity for victory brightened me quite a bit. All those years, and I still craved their approval, still longed for the carrot and stick of their 19th century child-rearing. I instructed myself to lower the heat of my emotions, to think without the family blood bursting at my temples. But I was 12 years old as soon as I passed the mezuzah at the front door. My father began to lead me to the living room couch for our usual heart-to-heart. My mother rushed over to the couch with a garbage bag, which she draped over the place where I was about to sit in my compromised Manhattan outerwear. She took Eunice to the kitchen, chatting gaily to her potential daughter-in-law about how guys can be so dirty, you know, and how she had just built a new storage device for her mini mops. On the couch, my father draped his arm around my shoulders and said, "No, расскажи, so tell me." I breathed in the same breath as he did, as if we were connected. I felt his age seep into mine as if he were the forward guard of my own mortality. I spoke in English with the tantalizing hints of Russian I had studied haphazardly at NYU, the foreign words like raisins shining out of a loaf. I spoke about work, about my assets, about the most recent fairly positive valuation of my 740 square foot Manhattan apartments, about all the monetary things that kept us fearful and connected. He held up the new apparat pendant I wore around my neck. How much? He said, turning the thing over, colorful data and rankings pouring over his hairy fingers. When I explained the device was given to me at work, he made a happy snort and said in English, learn new technology for free. It's good, it's good. The floor beneath my feet was clean, immigrant clean enough so that you understood that somebody had done their best. My father had 2 old-fashioned television screens stapled to the walls above my mother's fanatically waxed mantelpiece. In this future, there's only 2 stations left. There's Fox Liberty Prime and Fox Liberty Ultra. Good choice. One TV was set to a Fox Liberty Prime stream, which was showing the growing tent city in Central Park. The homeless people now spread from the backyard of the Metropolitan Museum over hill and dale, all the way down to the Sheep's Meadow. On the other screen, Fox Liberty Ultra was viciously broadcasting the arrival of our new master, the Chinese central banker at Andrews Air Force Base, our president and his pretty wife trying not to shiver in the weak Maryland downpour. I felt my father's breath against my cheek for 20 minutes as he talked about his complex political life and the news on the Fox. Then excused myself, unwound from his human embrace, and went to the upstairs bathroom as my mother shouted to me from the kitchen, "Lenny, don't take shoes off in the upstairs bathroom. Papa has gribov," athlete's foot. In the contaminated bathroom, I admired the strange blob of plastic with wooden spokes that kept my mother's serious mop collection in ready-to-access modes. Although my parents never had a good word to say about the country now called Holy Petrol Russia, the hallways were hung with framed sepia-tone postcards of Red Square and the Kremlin, the snow-dusted equestrian statue of Prince Yuri Dolgoruki, founder of Moscow, and the Gothic Stalin-era skyscraper of prestigious Moscow State University, which neither of my parents had attended because to hear them tell it, Jews were not allowed in back then. As for me, I have never been to Russia. I have not had the chance to learn to love it and hate it like my parents. I have my own dying empire to contend with, this one, and I do not wish for any other. My bedroom was nearly empty. All the traces of my habitation, the posters and little bits of crap from my travels were gone. I reveled in the smallness, the coziness of an upstairs bedroom in a traditional American Cape Cod house, that half floor that forces you to duck to feel small and naive again. I cannot begin to tell you how much the purchase of this house, of each tiny bedroom, had meant to my family and to me. I still remember the signing at the real estate lawyer's office, the three of us mentally forgiving each other for a decade and a half worth of sins, the youthful beatings administered by my father, my mother's anxieties and manias, my own teenage sullenness, because the janitor and his wife had done something right at last, and it would all be okay now. There was no turning back from this glorious fortune we had been granted in the middle of Long Island, from the carefully clipped bushes by the mailbox, our bushes, Abramov bushes, to the often mentioned Californian possibility of an above-ground swimming pool in a tiny backyard. Out in the hallway, I caught sight of a framed memento, an essay my father had written in English for the newsletter of the Long Island Scientific Laboratory where he worked, and which I, as an undergraduate NYU English major, had helped to proofread and refine. The Joys of Playing Basketball by Boris Abramov. Sometimes life is difficult, and one wishes to relieve oneself of the pressures and the worries of life. Some people see a shrink. Others jump in a cold lake or travel around the world. But I find nothing more joyful than playing basketball. At the laboratory, we have many men and even women who like to play basketball. They come from all over the world, from Europe, Latin America, and everywhere else. I cannot say I am the best player. I am not so young anymore. My knees hurt, and I am also pretty short, and this is a handicap. But I take the game very seriously, and when a big problem comes up in my life, and I feel like I do not want to live, I sometimes like to picture myself on the court, trying to throw a ball from a great distance, or maneuvering against an agile opponent. I try to play in a smart way. As a result, I find that I am often victorious, even against a much taller or faster player from Africa or Brazil, let's say. But win or lose, what's important is the spirit of this beautiful game. So if you have an hour on Tuesday or Thursday at lunchtime, 12:30, please join me and your colleagues for a good, healthy time in the Physical Education Center. You'll feel better about yourself, and the worries of life will, as they say, melt away. Boris Abramov is a custodian in the Buildings and Grounds Division. Down in the dining room with the shiny Romanian furniture the Abramovs had imported from their Moscow apartment, the table was laid out in a hospitable Russian manner with everything from 4 different kinds of salami to a plate of chewy tongue to every little fish that had ever inhabited the Baltic Sea, not to mention that sacred little dash of black caviar. Eunice sat Queen Esther-like in her Orthodox getup at the ceremonial end of the table upon a fluffed-up Passover pillow, frowning at the attention, unsure of how to deal with the strange currents of love and its opposite that circulated in the fish-smelling air. My father proposed a seasonal toast in English. To the Creator, he said, who created America, land of free, and who gives us now Defense Secretary Rubinstein, who kills Arabs. And to love, which is blooming at such time between my son and Unike, who, big wink to Eunice, will be victorious like Sparta over Athens. And to the summer, which is the most conducive season to love, like Sunday say spring. Well, he went on in his booming voice, his shot glass shaking in his troubled hand. My mother, bored out of her mind, leaned over to me and said, "Кстати, у твоей Eunice очень красивые зубы, может быть, ты женишься? By the way, your Eunice has very pretty teeth. Maybe you will marry her."